Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. Today to discuss that Bristol City performance, 0-0 away from home. I don't really know what to think because Watford are actually in a relatively good position in the table going into this World Cup break with fourth in the table. I just expected a lot more from that performance. Now, to give you the team news now, obviously, Ismaila Sarr and João Pedro were, I wouldn't say dropped from the starting lineup, but they were certainly not risked, whether for injury or because Ismaila Sarr is going to the World Cup. So Watford's team for this game was Daniel Batman, Mario Gaspar, William Troost-Ekong, Christian Kabasele and Hassan Kamara at the back. The midfield three was very different to normal. It was Dan Gosling, Edu Kayembe and Hamza Chowdhury. So Dan Gosling moving into midfield from right back and then Mario Gaspar going into that right back position. And then up front, again, very different to normal. We had Ken Sema, Keenan Davis and Samuel Kalou actually made his first start of the season. Obviously, Samuel Kalou's had a few good cameo appearances as a substitute this season, but that was his first start, and actually I didn't think he did that great. However, the big news from the game was João Pedro and Ismaila Sarr were not playing from the start. They actually both started on the bench and then come on about midway through the second half, and Slavan Bilic basically said, obviously they've played so much football recently, obviously we're playing, weekdays, weekends, we're cramming in all these games for the World Cup. And Slavan Bilic basically said they didn't want to aggravate the risk of a serious injury. Now, obviously, João Pedro is not going to the World Cup, but he is a very, very important player to us. So possibly, I personally might have risked João Pedro from the beginning. However, Ismaila Sarr, I think that's pretty much a decision to save him for the World Cup, which can be a bit controversial. I've seen a lot of Watford fans, saying that, club football should be the priority over international football. But then from the other perspective, obviously, the World Cup doesn't come around very often at all. It comes around every 4 years. And this is Ismaila Sarr's big opportunity to kind of prove himself on the world stage. And obviously as well with Senegal, Sadio Mane has picked up an injury recently, which might rule him out of the World Cup. So from a Senegalese perspective, Ismaila Sarr is pretty much their most important attacking player. So I can also understand, why Ismaila Sarr wasn't risked for this game. But the performance by Watford, wasn't really good enough for a side. Again, that's got a challenge for automatic promotion. As I've said in previous videos, the word I would use to describe this Watford team is inconsistent or inconsistency. And again, that's what we saw against Bristol City. I think Watford only registered 2 shots throughout the entire match, none on target. And actually Bristol City, from the very start of the game, were really pressing Watford hard, and they created some good opportunities for themselves as well. Daniel Batman made a couple of good saves throughout the match as well. And it just wasn't really a good performance from Watford. In fact, for the majority of the first half, we really sat back and just defended throughout the entirety of the first half. And Bristol City really should have gone ahead in the game with the opportunities they had. But that's really all that happened. There wasn't really much happening in this game. As I said at the start, it's a very, very dull, very boring game, and was kind of what I expected going into this World Cup break. Obviously, a lot of Watford players aren't travelling to the World Cup. They've probably got holidays booked or time with their families to look forward to. So their headspace probably wasn't really in the right place to play this game. And we have played a lot of football and we are in 4th position. So I have to say, if you'd told me before the World Cup break that would end in 4th position going into this month off, I would have said, yes, please, I'll take that. Get our injured players back and then look to build for the second half of the season. So actually looking at the position Watford are in the table, I am quite happy. However, there was a bit of big news to come from this game in regards to an injury, and it actually overshadowed the entire game and the entire Watford performance. And that was Dan Gosling going off with, it looks like, a ruptured ACL. Now, Dan Gosling isn't very young himself. I think he's 31 or 32 years old. And this is a very, very serious injury for any football player, let alone a football player who is approaching the end of his career. Now, Daniel Gosling's contract is expiring at the end of this season. And I think personally, just looking at previous injuries like this and other players who've been out for a long time, I can't see Dan Gosling, playing again for Watford this season, or maybe ever for Watford, which is such a shame. I mean, he's done fantastically well, deputising in that right back position. I know he's received a lot of praise from myself and a lot of other Watford fans as well. So, you know, my thoughts go out to Dan Gosling. Hopefully it's not as serious as it seems. Hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. That is potentially a career-ending injury there from Dan Gosling. I do have a couple of quotes here actually from Slavan Bilic, who says it looks like he's going to be out for a long time, and we are really sad about this. Dan Gosling is a top professional and he has been brilliant for us. And he also goes on to say it's a disaster. He's been excellent at right back and excellent in midfield. So yeah, massive news there from a Watford perspective. I mean, it really shows that in January, Gino Pozzo, Scott Duxbury, whoever it is, they have to get that checkbook out and they have to go and invest in this Watford squad. Where would I look to invest myself? I think right back is definitely a priority. Another central defender, perhaps. Obviously, Courtney House hopefully will be coming back from injury. But if we get back after the break and Courtney House still isn't ready, he would have missed over half the season with whatever this niggling injury is. So I think central defence is another target in the transfer window. I think up front, we're looking okay. I think Ismail Assar, João Pedro, Keenan Davis, and the other squad players up front are quite good. So I'm happy with our attack, really. And I think I'll probably look to bring in another central midfielder as well, a creative midfielder, because obviously João Pedro is dropping in there at the moment due to Imran Losers injury. So I'll probably look to bring in a more creative midfielder as well. Right, we do have the World Cup break coming up, of course, so no Watford matches for over a month. Do not worry though, there will still be content on the channel, so make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment your thoughts on the Bristol City game down below. And I'll catch you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.